Hello guys, welcome to the final episode of our philosophical ponderings on are video games good actually?
At least for season one, I think we probably
Yeah,
do.
there's
Will
enough
follow this up.
material for us to come back to this.
Yeah, we have a few plans, and
Yeah.
to be honest, I've actually quite enjoyed this. So I think we've got some ideas for some
As
follow up seasons.
as we began the series on Mortal Kombat, we are going to end the series on
We will. I think you missed the perfect like opportunity to go.
you're
We are
right,
going
so
to finish
finish.
him.
Yeah, we will finish the series on Mortal
Yeah.
Kombat. We looked at the new Mortal Kombat at the start, and we are looking at the Mortal Kombat of 1995 now. And my oh my, does Anderson like his kind of industrially techno music, doesn't he?
He does, but again, I mean, it was probably appropriate for the time, to be
Yeah,
honest.
I liked it.
I think. Yeah, I didn't have a problem with it.
I like that Mortal Kombat theme.
I mean, the thing is that Mortal Kombat theme is probably what a decent chunk of the populace think of when they think of Mortal Kombat.
Yeah,
That as much as they think about the fighting games or the films or what have you, like you say Mortal Kombat, and they will probably hear at least a little snippet of
yeah.
that theme in their head.
Like this.
Um,
This film was very late 80s, early 90s questy.
yeah,
Like very this is gonna sound very weird, but this was very never-ending story, very labyrinth, very
I get you. I get you.
with a lot of brutal combat. But it's that like, especially when the and again spoilers for a film from 1995. If anyone's not seen it, go and watch it before it's rentable on Amazon or iTunes. iTunes has a better bitrate, so you probably get a better looking picture there.
Isn't it called Apple TV now?
No, it's still iTunes that you rent your films from.
Oh yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah. So, anyway, debates aside, yeah, it's. I see what you mean, but then I mean, as we've discussed in a lot of the previous episodes, with the like every film that we've watched has very obvious inspirations.
And it's very much
Like
of the era
cinematically.
it was made.
It's very much of the era that they were made, but yeah, they have cinematic inspirations as to what they are going to do. Because
Like
obviously,
being
1995. Sorry.
saying for being a similar film about a fighting game and similar time frame, I get why people hold up this as a decent, because I don't think anyone thinks this film is bad. Like, I think this film has a pretty decent reputation. I get why people hold up this film and dismay Street Fighter, but I think I prefer the Street Fighter movie.
I think Street Fighter is a better film.
Yeah,
Whether it's
I think this is a more consistent, cohesive film. And I get why people think this is better than Street Fighter.
I mean, this is more of a close adaptation to what the game actually is as well.
Yes, but
Whereas
then there's
obviously
more. Maybe there wasn't back then. To be fair, maybe Mortal Kombat has been inspired a little bit by this film as it's gone.
I think it. Well, I mean, Kano was a. I believe Kano was a. From this film, or at least the interpretation of Kano was from this film, because the actor, although he is British, was trying to put a Cockney accent on, but it comes off as Australian, and it was only after this film that they decided to make Kano Australian. So I can't remember whether the character existed beforehand or not.
But Mortal Kombat has always had more in the way of plot than Street Fighter.
Yeah,
as a franchise. I like Christopher Lambert's Raiden.
I mean, it suited the time.
Yeah.
I think obviously nowadays you'd have issues with a case of casting.
Rightfully so, I would say.
Rightfully so. And
I liked the casting of Raiden in the modern film.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, this film, unlike the modern film, has Mortal Kombat in it.
Yeah, I mean, there's an actual proper tournament in this one.
I much prefer Prince Scarrow in this film. Like, as weird as it sounds, the shunky special effects have more personality than the clean special effects in the
Well,
new
it's
one.
because it was a real person wearing an animatronic
Yeah,
above the shoulders. So if you look carefully, you can actually see that the bottom arm's a real arm. I tried to look up who it was, but
the eyes.
um,
It's the eyes as well.
yeah, but I mean I mean it was still in '95. It was still peak animatronic time. So
Yeah,
like
I miss
chances are hiding.
animatronics.
Yeah, I mean hiding behind that was potentially like it may not have been oh God, the Henson team, but it might have been an
Yeah,
ex Henson crew or something like that. So it would have been like peak Muppet technology making that. So fair enough. What I did think though was actually some of the CGI for 1995 actually was quite good.
yeah,
There was some in there like what's his name? Scorpion's um, snaky hand thing
yep.
was actually remarkably good.
See, so
Like,
the new film talks about the Scorpion and Sub-Zero being enemy plot, and again, that's probably
mm,
something that's come more and more as the games have gone on, as well. So they've
mm,
got more to work with than this team had in '95.
mm,
But and the Sub-Zero Scorpion bit was probably the best bit of the new film.
mm.
That said, like there's a more thorough plot here than there is in that, because the new film is all about prepping for Mortal Kombat and has no actual Mortal Kombat.
The no tournament, so
Yeah, it
yeah,
feels like the new film has this problem where the entire film feels like a first act.
yeah, I get you.
While
It's almost like a fairly high budget pilot for a
yeah,
Mortal Kombat TV series as opposed to a standalone film.
while this film, because it is very questy and has a very
Mm,
much a hero's path kind of narrative structure, is a lot
mm,
more of a satisfying kind
yeah,
of beginning, middle, and end. Like
mm.
it feels like a story told, even
It's
if it
all,
ends on a cliffhanger.
even if it ends on the cliffhanger, because they obviously like assumed they were going to get to make the sequel, which they did,
Yeah,
obviously.
I've never seen the
Um,
sequel.
some significantly prefer it. Um,
Was that also
some don't.
Anderson?
I can't remember. I know only two of the cast return. Um, but I know some do definitely prefer Mortal Kombat Annihilation, which only came out 2 years later. Um,
Oh yeah, 1997.
because
No, it's
spoilers.
John R. Leonetti.
Mm, I can't remember what he's done outside of.
He was a cinematographer on the first one,
Ah,
and it's meant to
oh
largely
yeah,
be an adaptation of the third video game.
because of course, yeah, of course Anderson wouldn't have done it because he was balls deep into Event Horizon
Yes, of course.
because that was his next film after this. Um, but yeah, what I'd forgotten when watching this was that this has a similar plot to the 2021 film.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously they've added a new character in the 2021 film, who is the descendant of Scorpion. Um, but you've got that
yeah.
similar,
He's
like,
basically doing the Liu Kang part,
yeah, the
despite
Liu
Mortal
Kang
Kombat
part.
having a Liu Kang there to pick and
Mm,
use.
yeah, um,
But
and then
Liu Kang is in the new film, isn't he? He's just one of
he's
Raiden's.
he's one of Raiden's
Yeah.
right hand man. Yeah. So,
Obviously, we've got Johnny Cage here. Sonya
mm,
Blade is still here, and you have, and I assume they're both adapting rivalries in the games because you've got the Sonya Blade Kano
mm,
rivalry here as well. Not
mhm.
to as good effect as the new film. The new film does it better.
No, but then as we've said, that obviously the new film is all like the new film feels like Act One
Yeah,
of a very long film or a pilot, and therefore you do have time for more character build, but you don't necessarily get the payoff in the new film.
yeah,
Whereas with this one, the characters are possible and their motivations are a bit thinner, but then you do get the payoff of an actual Mortal Kombat tournament, albeit a stripped down one, but like it's there. Um, so like you get, I can understand
yeah.
both aspects because obviously realistically you don't want to go longer than 2 hours, and neither of these films do go well. I think the 2021's like 2 hours and five, but I mean when you take the credits out, like fair enough. Um, so they've. I think both films actually do quite a good job of delivering what they can
Yeah.
in a relatively limited time frame. Because obviously, for a lot of the for a mainstream audience, you've still got to introduce all these characters. You've got to make people understand who they are, what the situation is.
Yes.
You've got to flesh them out enough that it isn't just. I mean, again, in 1995, Mortal Kombat, yes, had more story than Street Fighter in the games, but it still wasn't necessarily what we think of as
Well,
story
that's
in
what I was
games
saying earlier.
now.
Like, did it, or is it more the fact that going forward, as fighters got more story, they were heavily inspired
Mm.
by this film and kind of. No, I still think it probably had more
I
text
think
in
it's
that kind of
yeah.
like.
Well, I mean, I was going to bring this up later because
I was
we
always, as
we
a gamer, I was always more of a Street Fighter player than I was a Mortal Kombat player. I played Mortal
yeah,
Kombat,
same.
but
Well, Mortal Kombat seemed to be. I know it was on both systems, but it was like more suited to the Mega Drive.
yeah,
And
yeah, that's because it
I
wasn't
didn't
censored
have.
on the Mega Drive.
Yeah, I didn't have a Mega Drive, but I did. A friend of mine did, so I did
Yeah,
occasionally play it.
yeah, it wasn't so much
Um,
for it's just that the Nintendo versions got heavily,
heavily censored. Yeah.
yeah, to
But
the point where they were not the same game.
mm, um, so I mean, I always played Street Fighter more just because I had a SNES and I didn't have a Mega Drive. I I think I also preferred the brighter colours
Yeah.
and the artistic style.
Well, Mortal
So
Kombat was playing with that weird rotoscoping actual people effect.
yeah, which is an interesting idea,
Yeah.
obviously, because like it does create a certain level of realism in a time when realism wasn't
We did
necessarily
get in this film
capable.
all the different colour ninjas. We got blue
Yep.
ninja, we got yellow ninja, and we even got green ninja.
You see, I like the story
Or
of the Green Ninja.
what, reptile?
Yeah, yeah. I thought that was a nice little like, and apparently that fight scene was added afterwards.
Ah.
That
Yeah,
was a late addition.
I like all the
That,
ninjas. I just find
mm.
it very humorous that they had nothing but a colour palette swap.
Well, yeah.
That I've had stories built around them over the years.
Mm. Um, but yeah, we were reading up on it, and that was essentially focus grouped into the film
Ah,
because they'd shown a rough cut, and there wasn't enough really high quality fight scenes.
yeah.
Um, so they wanted one really good martial arts fight scene, and that's why Reptile got his day in the sun, which is cool.
It works. Is it reptile? Is it reptile? It's reps. It's something reptile based.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It works plot wise as a final moment of hey, Liu Kang's the hero
Mm,
now, kind of.
yeah, it does. I mean, and then sets him up for taking on the big bad
Yeah.
at the end. Um, and of course, like it's, I think, I mean, we joke about the color palettes, but like, what's the name of the big of the villain? Why is it just blanked? Anyway,
Yeah.
earlier on in the film, when he's explaining the backstory of Scorpion and Sub-Zero, he says that they are the worst of enemies,
Yeah.
but they are both slaves to my power. And them actually having a similar design costume, as well as obviously later Reptile's costume being just a green version. It actually sort of works in that idea of them being slaves to him, in
Yeah,
that
it
like
does.
he wants a uniform as such. It might
Yeah.
not necessarily be their chosen design,
Yeah.
like if they were free to choose their own design. Um, so like on the surface it seems, obviously in the game it was just because it was easy to copy and paste and change the color,
Yeah.
but in the cinematically it actually has some sort of theme, and logic to it. It's quite nice. But yeah, I was going to say, because we were talking about perceived story and stuff like that, in while researching this, stumbled across a little YouTube documentary thing that was talking about how the first Mortal Kombat actually didn't start as Mortal Kombat.
Oh.
It started as a game of the Van Damme film Bloodsport.
Oh yes,
Um,
yes.
um, and the fact that they got they basically finished the game.
Yeah.
And then the licensing deal that they had with, I can't remember who it was, possibly Miramax, came to an end. And it was partly because Van Damme was too busy doing another film at the time. So, because I think he was heavily involved in the development of the original game.
Yeah.
But he was too busy to finish it off. So, of course, they had this finished game that now wasn't tied, and that they weren't legally required to not use it. So they reskinned it and made it into Mortal Kombat. So Johnny Cage is actually
Van Damme.
Jean-Claude Van Damme's character,
Yeah.
which is why he's got the nut shot as his finishing move, because he does that in Bloodsport,
Yeah.
where he does his splits and then gives a guy a shot to the nads. And then, of course, obviously in this film, the costume that Johnny Cage wears, I say costume, it's that typical Van Damme, slightly baggy dress trouser thing going
Yeah,
on.
with like a tight vest and
Well, yeah, tight vest underneath, but like again a baggy like dress
yeah.
shirt. So like it's that very like Don Johnson-y era look, that's both looks good, but because it's so baggy, it's functional in a fight, so that he can do all of his splits and his
Yeah.
stretching and stuff like that. So I thought actually it was quite nicely done, and obviously because in theory it was based on a film, there is always that thing of like maybe there is that touch of extra backstory for each of the character, and there's
Yeah.
that little bit of extra thought for each of the characters. When they made the first game and then the subsequent sequels, that they had that to base things on.
Sorry for my
Um,
incessant yawning today, folks. It's not that Matt is
no, it's
boring
fine.
me. I'm just
No,
tired.
he's quite used to me boring him, so he's immune to it now. Like you want to see him yawn though? If you ever meet him, give him a hot beverage
So
full of caffeine. It'll put him to sleep. So,
I like that it
um,
has just as cheesy of an ending as Street Fighter. We
yeah,
commented last week, or for us weeks ago,
mm,
on Street Fighter ends on that like freeze frame, ha kind of.
mm,
And I love how this one ends on like an even bigger badge showing up, and them all going like, "Come on!"
yeah, yeah. And again, it's strange because obviously you pointed out at the beginning of the episode that like people do more fondly remember this film than they do the
Street
Street
Fighter,
Fighter film,
yeah.
and yet they're just in. I think all of the flaws that they have are as
I
bad
wonder
as each other.
if it is as simple as one is faithful
Yeah.
while the other isn't, but didn't really have anything to be faithful to, and just it's construed as an un.
Well, I mean, the thing is that like
I think
if
the
you
problem
took,
is you've got something you don't have with Mortal Kombat that you have with Street Fighter as well. Is
mm,
Street Fighter has some very well received animes with plot.
mm,
that people prefer to
Yeah.
to the film. That
Yeah.
might also have a telling why one is more well regarded than the other. That one has more competition in regards to adaptations of Street Fighter than this has competition
True.
in regards to
Although
adaptations
the
of.
obviously the animes also lean way more into the fantasy elements that came in later versions of Street Fighter.
I mean,
Where
let's be fair.
hmm,
Street Fighter always features. I mean, I think the anime is pretty much contemporary to the film, but Street
it
Fighter
is, yes, but
does have a dude launching fireballs. Like,
oh, I know it does. Oh, yeah, yeah. But I think that like in a universe in a world now where we have like the biggest films on the planet are superhero films that and things about mutants and what have you, that like there's a bit in my head where I can sort of logically write off all those things as like mutations, that they are superpowers as opposed to them being some sort of
well,
magic.
Street Fighter 2, the animated movie, and Street Fighter the movie came out the exact same year, 1994.
Interesting.
So
Interesting.
I imagine you're in
And
a
they're
world
they're
where
very different takes. Have you seen it?
I may have seen it as a kid. I might have rented it from Blockbusters.
It's on. There's a Street Fighter 2 re-release that was on the PlayStation 2. And because obviously it was on a DVD, they put the film on the disc as well. And I've got it somewhere. So I did watch the film a few times.
And I know
yeah, it's
people love that. And I think it hits at that time period where anime in general is really hitting in the West. Akira will have been hit and they've got big. Dragon Ball will be very popular. Gundam Wing will be airing. Street Fighter 2, the movie. So this is... Anime is... I mean, anime is just Japanese animation. That's what it is. It's not. It's not a genre. As much as some people will try to. Oh yeah, anime, manga, they're genres. No, they're not.
No.
They're form.
I mean, manga's a house, isn't it? It's like a production company.
No,
I mean, I'm sure
there is a UK.
Sure
there's a UK animation distributor called Manga.
Oh, okay.
Manga is comics. It's Japanese comics. They are comics. You read them the other way because you know it's nature, but all they are manga means, again, translate. I don't speak Japanese, so I could be slightly off on this, but all manga is comics. Now they have a very different culture in regards to comics. And if anyone wants more in-depth thought on this, I'm pretty sure we've gone into it on the comic book show Comics Unmasked, airing on this very same channel. But anime and manga are a form, not a genre.
Yeah.
But anime was hitting big over here at the time.
Yeah.
And I could see how those two things releasing roughly at the same time are why Street Fighter the film has a negative
I think
view.
For a hardcore audience, yes. I think and obviously they're going to be the ones that over time of their voices has lasted. I think the other thing for Street Fighter, and with other computer game films of that decade, let's face it, was that computer games were still like very much looked down upon by the mainstream, by the those who didn't play them generally didn't understand them. Oddly enough, Siskel and Ebert, or whatever it was, gave Mortal Kombat a raging thumbs up. So, because they just accepted it for what it was and just said, you know what, it's good fantasy, fun. Enjoy it for what it is.
I also wonder how much that also plays in. That fantasy element may also boost Mortal Kombat, because it is definitely a fantasy and not Because again, there's probably nothing it's being compared to, as well as being compared to the animated show film. Street Fighter the movie is also just being compared to other Jean-Claude Van Damme action vehicles. And
I think so.
And let's be fair, there's better ones. Like
there are better ones. I think the other thing though is that, like, again, I mean, I mentioned comic book superhero films a few minutes ago. Realistically, Street Fighter, the Jean-Claude Van Damme film, is probably closer to what Marvel's put out in the last 10, 15 years than any, like, most of the films that we've discussed in this series have very, very deliberate influences, whether it be Doom looking at aliens, or whether it be Super Mario Brothers looking at Ghostbusters, or Resident Evil looking at various things, and all these other films having very hard, like, influences.
I mean, I'd argue Street Fighter has hard influences, and that is mostly Jean-Claude Van Damme films.
But I don't think that's necessarily an influence in the sense of, like,
that it is a Jean-Claude Van Damme film, so it is just another film in this.
Exactly, yeah.
Canon.
Whereas if you look at the color palette of it, if you look at there's certain, like, aspects to that film that I mean, we've already, like, talked about how the fact that one of the most prolific writers in Hollywood, one of the most successful monetary-wise writers in Hollywood, both wrote and directed Street Fighter.
Yeah.
It's one of the rare films he has directed, but I think he actually did a really, really good job with it. There is a level of quality to that film that actually, when you think about it, has relatively little external influence. They've just gone in and said, well, what are the core ideas of this game? And tried to expand on it as much as they possibly can to make a film that works. And I think that almost is the problem. That and this is going to sound ridiculous. Street Fighter was almost too good. Like
but I'm not sure if that's a sentence that anyone's ever uttered before. But
no, I mean, I mean, obviously, there are things that let it down. It is cheesy. It's like it's this, that, and the other. But
slightly back on track with this film. Like I think Mortal Kombat is good.
Yeah. So to answer the question,
are video game movies good? And in this case, I would say yes.
Yeah. Which sort of brings us to the end of the season. And
yes,
for season 1, James, are video game movies good? Actually,
they're certainly fun.
Fair enough. I'm going to lean towards yes. I don't think there are any in this first season. I don't think there have been any excellent films, but I don't think there equally have been any truly bad films.
Okay, I know we've got some ideas going forward with some format breaking ideas for this show. But keeping the line of video game movies, if you could do any film for season 2.
Well, we were thinking of
outside.
Jumping,
but I was saying, like, definitely don't go into any of the ideas we've had about maybe alternative ways of looking at this question. Just straight up video game movies.
That is a difficult question.
The thing is, they kind of stop. The closer and closer we get to now, they kind of stop happening as much.
Yeah, you see, there's a bit of me that hates myself, and that bit of me really wants to try and watch a few Uwe Boll films, just to see how bad they were, because he was churning out like a film a year, and somehow kept getting the licenses for things like Soul Reaver and stuff like that.
No, it's Blood Rain.
Aren't they in the same?
No,
I thought they were. But I'm sure he did a Soul Reaver as well.
he did. No, I'm sure he just did Blood Rain. Soul Reaver, I don't think he's did any film adaptation.
Oh, but they he almost killed it.
Both about vampires, worth pointing out.
He almost killed the genre of
Yeah.
computer game movies.
I
And then,
mean,
of course,
I think Sonic is a must for the next.
Sonic certainly is a must. I mean, we watched Detective Pikachu the other week
Yeah, that
because
is a
I've
video.
seen
That
it.
is technically a video
Yeah,
game adaptation.
and if
It's
we ever get round to it, I'd say it's probably the best that's ever been made.
Detective Pikachu. The
I
thing
have
is,
I
Detective
haven't
Pikachu
seen Sonic,
is an
so
odd one because Pokemon has become such a big IP.
yeah.
I mean, an argument can be made Pokemon the movie, the original animated movie, is also
Mm.
fantastic. And but is that an adaptation of a video game, or is it a film of a TV series that is technically an adaptation of a video game? Like Pokemon has become a
Well, I mean,
weirdly
you see,
sprawling IP.
Detective Pikachu, being that it's the name Detective Pikachu, is a very loose
Actually,
adaptation
is an adaptation
of
of a particular
a DS
Pokemon
game.
game.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Um, Now, again, I'm sure we will review it because it's fantastic. But for me, when I was watching it, I was thinking, this is what happens when Super Mario Brothers is good
yeah, it's an
because
absolute stunning looking film.
it's a it's a very similar feeling film, like, but with all of the quality cranked up to 11.
Yeah,
And
Detective
we'll
Pikachu is
probably leave it there.
fantastic.
Yeah, Detective Pikachu is amazing. I haven't seen Sonic yet. I will
I
certainly see
would
Sonic.
weirdly, even though it's not adapting, I consider Wreck-It Ralph a video game movie
I mean, it is.
in a way that isn't format breaking. Like an argument could be made that something like Scott Pilgrim is, but Scott Pilgrim is adapting a comic that homages a lot of video games, and then the visuals of film allows it to do that even more. But Scott Pilgrim is
And then,
not a video game movie.
and then, of course, you've got the Adam Sandler classic Pixels.
That also, I'd argue, isn't a video game movie,
I know. I was just putting it in there.
but
Just as
does
a thought.
again. That would be a format breaking idea. Or that would be a films inspired by video games idea. The reason I think Wreck-It Ralph just falls on the side of being a video game movie is there's enough actual
Yeah.
video game characters and it's taken it from a different approach, being it's an arcade, and the games that they play in are designed for the film. But I do think the Wreck-It Ralphs just fall on the side of video game movie as opposed to film about video games, as weird as that sounds.
No, I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
Wreck-It Ralph 2
What was
even
that?
more with its fake Grand Theft Auto.
I haven't seen Wreck-It Ralph 2.
It's good. It's the first one's probably better, but
I watched the first one quite a few times when I was teaching in Korea.
I might on a side note before we go. Oh yeah, we've got something else to discuss at the very end anyway. But I might
Yeah,
be
we do,
returning
yeah.
to the cinema this week.
Really? Go on then.
I might
To watch.
In the Heights.
Mm.
It's a limitless screening, so I know it's not going to be busy, which is why I've decided to go and see it.
No, fair enough.
I might not yet, but I'm definitely tempted. It
Yeah.
starts to feel like it's feeling like it's a visit
A bit
might be
safer.
safe-ish now.
I had my second jab on Saturday.
Nice. Any reaction?
Not the day or the day after, but for some reason the day after that,
Yeah.
I just felt like I had a bit of a cold. I mean, I didn't feel bad in any
Yeah.
shape, but but for like the whole day this time, it was like just
Yeah.
it was like I was running at about 85%, right? Like, so it was just that little
I mean,
extra.
I only ever run at about 85%, so. And that
Well, I mean, in
textbook,
theory-
you know that story about the person who goes to the doctor and goes, "Oh, how much pain you in?" Oh, the usual amount of pain. To which the doctor replies, "Well, the usual amount of pain is zero pain."
Yeah, something like that. Anyway, so let's move on.
Yes.
So
We are
this
going-
weekend.
Yes, E3 begins, as this will be going up the Saturday as E3 starts. So over the next week, we will be bringing you daily E3 updates. a day behind what you will have seen then, but we hope you might want to tune in to hear our insight. We're not doing Let's Watches or live streams, but we will be more on the ball with the news than we normally are. Rather than, weeks behind, we'll be a day behind.
Yeah, which should be all right.
Yeah.
I think it also gives us a chance to watch what we want to watch.
Yes.
Because there's going to be a lot of stuff that either neither of us want to watch, or only one of us does. We have got some guests.
Yeah, well. It won't just be me, and we have Connor off Comics Unmasked joining us because he is also a video game fan.
Mm-hmm. And we might have someone from
Dice Fuels might be popping on for a little bit. We might see what else we can do, but it'll certainly at least be for trio of me, Matt, and Connor for the through line. I think.
Yep. So we'll cover the main things, so.
But give me
today, one... as we're recording it today or yesterday, Ratchet and Clank came out as well.
No, so... Ratchet and Clank comes out Friday.
Is it Friday?
It's been reviews of it,
and certain obviously it's because I saw Corey Barlog this morning play it on Twitter. Or a screenshot of it, because of course he works for Sony, so therefore he's got a copy already.
Yeah. So what we will say is give me 3 E3 predictions.
3 E3 predictions. Obviously, Sony's not officially there.
Sony's not there at all.
But
Sony has something in July.
I wouldn't be surprised if they do something next week, though. I could see
them know by now. Sony's announced their thing is July.
No, I mean, I think a little trailer or something.
Maybe.
Is that
a prediction? You expect a Sony trailer?
I expect a Sony trailer next week.
Okay.
That's prediction 1. James, prediction 1.
Prediction 1. Switch Pro at Nintendo.
Switch Pro at Nintendo. Yeah. Yeah, that's probably. Will they or will they not show Breath of the Wild 2 with it?
Yes. It will launch with Breath of the Wild 2.
It will launch with Breath of the Wild 2.
Not necessarily as a bundle, but they will be much like they will launch it like for Switch launched with Breath of the Wild. And assuming the obvious that Horizon is not coming out this year. Despite what we say.
I think it is.
I don't. I predict March next year for Horizon.
Yeah.
And I predict for Switch Pro and Breath of the Wild 2 launching at the exact same time all over again.
As Horizon?
Yeah, that would be amazing.
You see, I could see both companies being tempted to do that.
Yeah.
And I could also see my prediction of a trailer next week being a Horizon Horizon Forbidden West launch date trailer. So that if we get a date for the Switch Pro and Zelda, then I think maybe we get a confirmation date next week for Horizon Forbidden West.
None of that is my prediction. My prediction is Switch Pro and Nintendo. I think there's enough solid rumours now that it's definitely happening.
I think they'd be nuts not to. I think the only reason that you wouldn't is if there just isn't the parts for it.
Enough of the rumours are concrete enough that it's definitely...
I mean, I think it would have been out by now had it the Switch Pro. That is not necessarily Breath of the Wild 2, but I think the Switch Pro would have been out by now had it not been for all the silicon issues.
So your prediction 2?
Prediction 2. Prediction 2. Halo Infinite does not come out this year.
Oh, see, I think it has to. But they need something for the winter season.
If it does come out this year, Halo Infinite might be just the online section
Okay.
or just the story mission, but I don't think it's going to be both.
My prediction too. The major game that Square Enix announce, is the Guardians of the Galaxy game.
I could see that. Hasn't it already been announced?
We've seen it's announced as in existing.
Mm.
We've not seen anything of it.
Mm.
So that's going to be the major game at their show.
Mm. I'm going to go back to Microsoft and Bethesda. And because a certain old man with a hat and a whip is up the road
Yep.
fighting in a castle near me, I'm going to say that we see a bit more of Machine Games Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I could imagine that.
Um,
And that gets me to my third prediction.
yeah.
Xbox plus Bethesda will be the show of V3.
Probably. I don't think they've anyone. I don't think they've got anyone to compete with. I think the only
Sony's not there, but
Nintendo won't have a proper show.
I mean, I'm on record as saying,
and they've got
they've got a direct followed by a treehouse.
Yeah.
I'm on record though saying I think Microsoft right now is the most exciting of the three console manufacturers.
Probably, yeah.
Because there's so much variety in the studios they've bought and now own. There's so much like. But all this will be stuff to discuss in episodes next week.
Yeah.
So catch us next week for Bears Do E3.
Yep. See you soon.